We had some nice trades last week from the daily market breakdown videos. Let's get right into this week's Forex Forecast. All right, starting things off with the DXY, the US dollar. So we are pushing back into this weekly selling area. As you can see, we already got that initial reaction off of this selling area, and we're coming in for the second test at this point. But if you notice something, if I kind of zoom in here, give me 1 second, you can clearly see we had a nice rally up, and now we have two basing candles. Now, basing candles obviously can mean, you know, price can push down or push up, but since it's a second test, to me this is kind of looking like we are basing for that next leg up. Obviously it's difficult to tell for now since we don't have a daily trend yet, but since we are basing and it's a second test, I am kind of expecting this supply to at least break where we previously reacted off of it. So I think we will at least test 50% of the way in to this supply level here. And if you go to a daily chart, we do not have a daily trend yet. We created demand down below at 103.08 and we failed to react off of it, but you know, clearly we have upward momentum. There is no trend line here yet. You can see this high that I have marked out here. That is what I am looking to see removed, because then we will have that daily trend, which should indicate a stronger trend, which definitely could indicate we'll be pushing much higher on the dollar, potentially up to like the 106 areas again on the DXY. So things are definitely looking strong. It's more evident here on the 4-hour chart. As you can see, we have a pretty much a picture perfect 4-hour trend. This is what we are looking to see on the daily chart. So we have, you know, higher highs, higher lows here. We have demand zones being respected at 104.09. We have new high here as well. So really on the 4-hour chart and the 1-hour chart, all signs are pointing to the upside. I really see no sign of weakness. Even when we push down to here, that wasn't really weakness for me because we had demand. If we had broken this demand, then I would say, hey, maybe we are going to break this trend line. But the trend line's holding, demand is holding. All signs are really pointing to the upside here on the DXY. Even on the 1-hour chart, we have a 1-hour demand zone currently being respected. So really not much to say other than that. You could be day trading long the US dollar pairs. Obviously, we're going to look at more markets throughout this forecast, but always we start with the DXY to kind of get the bigger direction. Be careful, we will have some supply coming into effect, but since the trends are so strong, if we can get that daily high removed, creating that daily trend, then I think it's safe to say that, you know, we could be breaking this weekly supply and maybe even the high. So for the meantime, definitely looking pretty bullish here on the DXY. On to the forecast for the Euro US dollar. As you can see, a couple weeks ago, we did react off of supply at 1.09, and we were sitting in the middle last week. Now we are closer to this demand zone at 1.072. But I wanted to point this out. This demand zone from back here, beautiful rally demand zone. One of my favorite types of zones. And you can see we had one nice reaction off of it, 2, 3 times, and we tested it almost 50% of the way in. So I'm expecting a reaction off the zone. I don't think we will see a reaction from the zone like we did back here where we push all the way back up to supply. I'm kind of doubting that we will get this move, but I don't think we're just going to, you know, blow right through it as if it did not exist. So I just wanted to point that out at 1.07. So there is still profit margin to, you know, 1.072 down to this daily area of demand. So things are definitely looking good for shorts here on the euro. And, you know, we did obviously catch this trade from last week. And 2 weeks ago, and this past week we cut this beautiful 4-hour supply zone trade. Even some of the members got involved in this trade as well. And this is from the daily market breakdown video where I do basically every day a daily forecast just like in these videos. So if you guys want access to my analysis throughout the week, video lessons, Sunday Zoom sessions, and much, much more, check out the links in the description down below to the Diamond membership. We'd be happy to see everybody join the team. We also have lifetime access available. So we are currently reacting off of this 4-hour demand zone down here. We did see an initial reaction off of this zone, push back in for a second test, but ultimately, guys, look at the trends, right? The trends are down. Yes, we are into demand. In theory, we could push back up to supply. That wouldn't really be good for shorts, but I just want to say, I think with the 4-hour downtrend, we definitely could be looking for short trades here on the euro. Now, what I want to be looking for here, since the supply zones are all tested, if you guys have been following my videos for a while, I don't really love trading at tested areas. If price did push back up to the supply and you wanted to short, since it's a 1-hour supply zone, I would rather you guys look for a 5-minute or a 15-minute confirmation to the downside before just entering in short because it is tested. So either we could look for that, trade at the tested zone with confirmation. If not, we are currently reacting off of this trend line, so we could kind of fake out to the upside, then push down. And if we break this demand zone here, any 1 hour supply there, we could then look for shorts again, just like we did up here as well. So this is what I'm looking to see here on the euro, to basically continue to trade with the downtrend. But if we do break up to the upside, like I said, day trading shorts in here could be fine again, although it is tested. And if not, I want to see this demand zone removed, creating new supply that we could potentially get in short at. So that's pretty much all I'm seeing here on the euro, guys. Remember, any questions, do not hesitate to ask. I respond to all comments. All right, on to the forecast for gold. As you guys know, beautiful weekly candle here on gold. Just a very, very bullish looking candle. I don't know why anybody would be bearish on gold. Look at this beautiful weekly trend. Even if we get that huge retracement from wherever we're at, 22.23, all the way back down to 20.41, I don't care. I think it's a beautiful weekly zone. I've been saying it the last couple weeks, so I'm sure if you guys have been watching my videos, probably sick of me hearing it, but you know, I have to point that out. I absolutely love that weekly zone, and I would definitely encourage a pullback all the way down to there. I would definitely be looking to buy that dip. If you look at the daily chart, again, since last week, I still like the pullback all the way down to 21.32 for the nearest pullback before we can get all the way down to there. So I do like this daily zone still, and to me, it looks like we are kind of basing out here and rallying up for a potential demand zone. I will have that zone for the members as well throughout the week if it does become a zone or not. So really all signs are pointing to the upside. Day trading longs, swing trading longs are fine because we have all trends on all 4 time frames. It's a pretty rare time. I know when the USDJPY was trending last year, pretty much all demand zones are being respected. So it was absolutely perfect. If you look at a 4 hour chart here, we caught this trade from the last weekly market weekly Forex Forecast video from last week. We are currently pushing up. It's more evident here. So beautiful call out there to the upside. We do have demand down below. I don't really love it. I like to draw zones sometimes just to see what removes them. And this is a very questionable zone. I am really not a fan of that 4 hour zone, but look, day trading long on 15-minute, 5-minute charts are definitely going to be fine. And looking at the 1 hour chart here of gold, we are basing out here for potential demand. We haven't created the demand just yet, but it is looking like some nice basing. But for now, all the way down at 21.97 at this 1 hour demand zone, if we can get that pullback, I think it's a decent area to look for that dip buy as we potentially push to all-time highs again. So, you know, I'm not liking shorts right now. I will say that. If we can create a 5-minute downtrend or something like that, then okay, maybe we could look for shorts. But in the meantime, all trends are pointing to the upside. Even if we do start to rally here, or rally to the downside, I'm sure a lot of retail traders will be trying to hop and short this move, and that's fine. We have clear profit margin down to 21.97, but I'd rather just be looking for that dip buying opportunity. So that's what I'm seeing here on gold. Like I said, guys, no need to confuse you guys other than that. All signs are pointing the upside. Weekly trend up, daily trend up, 4 hour trend is up, and even the 1 hour trend is up. So pretty much longs on all time frames. All right, on to the forecast for the USDJPY. And really quick, just want to really thank you guys. We did another donation to my local hospice, and it's really thanks to you guys for liking and subscribing and sharing these videos. So I encourage you guys to continue to do that. Much appreciated if you hit that like button and share the video as we get more ad revenue. All ad revenue is donated to the hospice in my city. So much appreciated, guys. I love doing that. So anyways, on to the yen here. We finally broke this weekly supply. It's been a long journey up to the supply, a long journey down, another long journey up to it again, and we have finally broken it. And if you look now, we actually have a beautiful weekly trend here on the USDJPY. So really all signs are pointing to the upside. Now, obviously, when we approach all-time highs like this, or just highs in general, a lot of times we could see a fake up. We do have a demand zone now on the weekly chart at 149.16. What I will say about this demand zone, guys, it's not great. I don't love, it's pretty much just a pivot, something like that. So I really am not loving it. So we have to be trading there with caution. Now, I know nobody really is going to enter and then with a stop loss below a weekly zone. Most of you guys are probably day traders anyways. But I will say that if this was an entry time frame for me, there's absolutely no way I would just set an order at this zone. So confirmation, if we do pull back to here, is definitely going to be needed. And if you look at a daily chart here, we actually have this daily zone all the way down at 149. 15. So if we do get a pullback down to there, it's decent. I think we could look for longs in there because it's inside of that weekly zone. So confirmation on a lower time frame in there could definitely be good. And that's if we do get that rally down. I'm not saying we will. It would definitely be counter trend, but it's just something that is possible. Since we have a weekly trend, doesn't mean price always goes up. It means that we could be, getting pretty clear pullbacks. And if we look at a 1 hour chart here, this is what I don't like to see. Yes, we just broke the high in the weekly chart. All signs are really pointing to the upside, at least on the higher time frames. But look at this sideways action here. Okay, we have demand zone being respected. Nice moves. We actually have a supply zone above here that is actually fresh at 151.64. So let's say you think we will pull back down to that daily or weekly demand zone that was somewhere around here. If you think that, your counter trend short trade will be up here at 151.64 at this 1 hour supply. Now, I will say this is an aggressive entry due to the fact that we just created a weekly trend, due to the fact that we have a daily trend. It is a risky counter trend setup. I prefer to trade with the trend only, but of course, I'm going to point out somewhat of a decent counter trend setup, right? A nice supply zone, basically a very nice drop all the way down to demand. We didn't break demand, but we broke the trend line. So either that for counter trend, or if we break down below this 1 hour demand, any 1 hour supply there, we could look to trade short as well for counter trend. And that's with the idea of, hey, I think we're going to react off the supply and pull back down to that demand zone. So on the daily chart. So if you don't want to trade counter trend, that's fine. The issue with this 1 hour chart though is, look at this. This is very tested. I certainly don't want to be trading in this area. Even down here, it's tested, and it was a bad zone anyways. So what I'd be looking for longs is simply that pullback down to that daily zone, like I was talking about, just to go back down to 149.15, or like I said, it's also in the weekly zone as well, and we could be just waiting for this weekly zone and be looking for confirmation on a 1 hour chart. That's what I'd be doing for longs. Let's say we don't get a pullback down to that daily demand. That's fine. If we push up here, let's say we break this supply and the high, any 1 hour demand zone there, I will have on my charts for the members, and you guys can look as well, but any 1 hour zone there, we could look for longs off of if we can prove that we are going to continue up and not pull back down to demand. So to kind of summarize here, this could be used for counter trend trades, and if it is broken and the high is removed as well, then any 1 hour zone there would be decent for longs, which would indicate we're not going to pull back to the daily zone. We're actually going to continue up. On to the GBPUSD, the British pound, and let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on the pound. Let me share my thoughts here on the pound. Well, we did break this trend line to the upside. We broke demand as well, and that created us this nice little drop-based drop supply zone at 1.27 on the daily chart. Now, really no evidence to suggest that we are going to pull back up to this supply, but if you are getting in long on day trading timeframes or something like that, our profit margin to the long side would be to this daily supply. So if you do get in long, that would be my profit target, as I think we could definitely react off of this supply zone. And all the way down at 1.25, we have this daily zone that's been tested once, twice, 3 times. So it's not looking great for longs, but that would be our profit margin to the downside, like I said, down to that daily zone. And as you notice, we are pretty much floating in the middle of supply and demand. So what do we do in this instance? I would like to know what you guys would do in this instance in the comments down below as well. What I would do is really focus on the 4 hour trend. You can clearly see we have a beautiful, pretty much picture perfect 4 hour downtrend right now. Now we are kind of floating down here, kind of away from the trend line. So I think it's definitely possible we start to pull back and retrace to kind of fill in the space here. But as long as this downward trend line is holding on the 4 hour chart, we could be looking for day trading shorts, especially on a 50-minute or a 5-minute time frame, I think is going to be good. So to summarize, we have a beautiful 4 hour downward trend line holding right now. Definitely could look for day trading shorts. If you look at the 1 hour chart, I'm really not loving this right now as we're kind of just basing out and going sideways, but that's fine. We could just be, at any point, if we break up to the upside, could still be looking for shorts on day trading timeframes. Maybe we break down, get a pullback to a nice 15-minute supply zone. I don't go down to those timeframes on the forecast. I will leave that to you guys because I'm not going to, spoon feed you guys everything here. But at the end of the day, like I said, as long as that 4 hour downward trend line is holding and we are not too close to this demand zone or touching it, then at that point we could be looking for shorts. So let's say we pushed all the way down to this demand zone and we're like just reacting off of it, and we get a pullback to a 50-minute supply zone. I would not be looking to take that trade because we are contacting a higher time frame demand. So day trading shorts are fine all the way down to 1.25. If we pull back up to this daily supply zone, we could look for shorts at that better short entry as well here on the GBPUSD. Alrighty, on to the forecast for the USDCAD. We have failed to break this daily supply. Look how many times we've reacted off of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? And in the 7th time here, we pushed in almost all the way. So I am expecting this to break, but it's really not looking fantastic here on the USDCAD. The USDCAD is always kind of a weird pair. We are into a 1 hour demand zone right now. We have seen that initial reaction to the upside. We pulled back in for pretty much just a 3rd test, so it's not looking great, but this demand zone is currently holding. So you could be on day trading timeframes looking for longs in here, especially if the dollar continues to be strong. It's a decent area to look for longs, so at least this opposing supply that we've reacted off of multiple times as well. So just a ton of profit margin here, all the way up to 1.36, and especially if the dollar gets strong, we can create a daily uptrend. It's looking pretty good. Another issue I'm having is this 4 hour chart. You know, it might look strong to you guys, but all I see is sideways action and zones failing, and that happens in sideways price action, guys. A lot of the times when we get sideways movement, zones end up failing. That's why I don't like trading supply and demand in sideways markets. It's more of support and resistance, which is completely the opposite of supply and demand. Although a lot of people think it's the same, it's really not at all, especially if you know how to trade supply and demand properly. So, you know, we also have this supply above, so I think we could react off that supply, but nothing really I'm super eager to do. So if we do break the highs here, we will have a nice 4 hour trend to the upside, and that would be decent as well. Since we are bullish the US dollar, and if we can create that daily trend by breaking the high in the DXY, like I pointed out at the beginning of the video, if we break this 4 hour supply, any 4 hour demand there, we could look for longs in as well. But in the meantime, I'm not seeing any pullback entries on the USDCAD. And you know, guys, I'm not going to just point out random areas just for the sake of recording a video. I'm a trader and I'm a content creator second, and these forecasts are for you guys. I know a lot of traders out there just trying to, here's a zone, and here's a zone here, because they want to point out a ton of zones or whatever analysis they are doing. That's not what I do here. I'm not liking this chart. I will say that right now. I'll be completely honest with you guys. It's not great. We need to see, you know, supply zones being removed and highs being removed and new 4 hour zones being formed until we can get out of this junky sideways price action. But in the meantime, on the 1 hour chart, like I said, we are into a nice 1 hour zone. So yes, in theory, we could be looking for longs here, though even this is not looking great. But at least we broke out of this range right here, right, to a clean demand zone. That's why I liked this zone originally. Just now it's tested, so you want to be on day trading time frames, kind of getting that confirmation entry as we pull off of that 1 hour demand and back to the daily chart, and hopefully break that daily supply, because if we do, I think we could easily pull back up to 1.38, up to that daily supply above. All right, we are moving on to the Aussie US dollar. So the past couple weeks, guys, we did react off of supply. We don't have a downtrend here or any trend in general. The only thing we have going for it is the fact that the supply was in control. Now we are kind of pushing to these lows here. So, you know, ultimately we prefer to see a nice daily downtrend. Obviously, if the DXY creates that uptrend, we will most likely achieve this downward trend line as well. So not much to go off of here as far as the daily chart goes. But on the 1 hour chart, something interesting took place. We did break above this supply zone and this downward trend line, which created two demand zones all the way down at 0.649, which is kind of the overall origin of that move, and a zone right here that we are currently reacting off of at 0.65. So, you know, we do have demand zone in control at this point. It is aggressive. It is pretty much a counter trend setup, because if you go to the 4 hour chart really quick, you can see we have a 4 hour downtrend. But actually, let me just blow up the 4 hour chart in a second here. The overall 4 hour trend is down, so that 1 hour move to the upside would be counter trend. So it's definitely a little bit aggressive, but there's nothing wrong with trading aggressively, guys. It's just aggressive. So maybe it's a time to lower your risk, or just understand that it is a more aggressive approach, and you know, you might have a lower win rate, but obviously they can be very rewarding as well. So it is counter trend, but we do have a fresh supply above at 0.656 to the 4 hour chart, so we easily could be pushing back up to that supply. So our profit margin long, like our highest profit margin, if you, let's say you let's say you take 75% off of your trade, maybe at 3-to-1 or something, you could let the other 25% ride up to 0.65 at that 4-hour supply zone. So with that 1-hour demand zone in control right now, we could be looking for day trading longs. And let's say you don't get a long entry or you take a loss and we break below the low, break the zone. That's okay. We have a zone down here you could also look for longs in to potentially get that move. But remember, it is counter trend, so it might be smarter to look for only a 2-to-1 move or a 3-to-1. You know, I like to look for 5-to-1 moves, pretty much maximum. Because it is hard to get a very, very large trade, especially if you're swing trading. It kind of messes with your emotions, and I'm not perfect. So might be best, since it is counter trend, and this is a very obvious area, to just look for that quick little 1-to-1, 2-to-1 move, because ultimately I think we could break below based on that 4-hour downtrend. But who knows? You know, these are offering nice counter trend setups if you think we are going to, you know, push up to potentially pull back up to that 4-hour supply. And look, if we break this demand zone here, and we have new 4-hour supply zone, we'll have that zone on my charts in the daily market breakdown videos as well. I mean, we'll be talking about it throughout the week. We could potentially look for short trades off of that supply zone, even if this zone is still holding. So as far as shorts go, which is what I actually prefer based off of what I'm looking at in the DXY, we need to at least see this zone removed first, since it is a very significant area of demand. And once these, you know, even if this, let's say we get a zone here and we don't pull back up to it, and we start to rally, and we get, maybe you get a little 2-to-1 off of this long, and then we eventually break this demand here, that's fine. Any 4-hour supply zone there, we can also, 1-hour supply zone there, we could also look for shorts. So again, for supply zones, we are, and for shorts, we just need to see these zones start to being removed, since, you know, they did take out the downward trend line and they are significant. On to the USD Swiss franc, the CHF. So we are into a weekly supply zone, kind of wicking out of it right now. Obviously, it's nothing crazy. I'm not saying, oh my God, we're going to go down to the downside here. Look at this move, right? But we did create a demand zone right here on the weekly chart at 0.88. I love this area to look for that pullback long entry to potentially get a beautiful swing trading setup here. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if we can pull back down to that area or not. Obviously, it's difficult to tell just looking at the weekly chart. That's why we use multiple time frame analysis. So we go to the daily chart here. We are into a daily zone. Now, this is a very, very bad daily zone, but it is a daily zone. It's barely a move away. I actually prefer the one lower, obviously, at 0.888. So if we pull back down to there, I don't like that the trend line's in the way here, but, you know, we could look for longs down in there. And at any point, since we are in a demand zone, it's definitely possible this zone holds. Remember, guys, the worst zones can work and the best zones can fail. So anything is possible, and we are into a daily zone. That's why we could be looking for longs, but right now. But ultimately, the better zone is lower, like I said, at 0.888. But look at this beautiful daily trend here. Pretty much picture perfect. So we could be looking for longs. We pretty much want to be focusing on this 1-hour chart here, guys. So if you think we're going to continue to go down, let's say you think we're going to get that pullback down to that weekly demand zone, like I was talking about at the beginning of the forecast for the USD Swiss. If we do pull back up to that supply, this would be our counter trend kind of setup right there at 0.90. And it's a decent zone. As far as a counter trend setup, it's almost as good as you're going to get, right? Beautiful move away, tight, clean basing, remove demand. It's basically as good as you're going to get for that counter trend setup. And we're also going to be using this zone to see for confirmation longs. So since we are contacting that poor quality zone, we could be looking for longs. So if we do push up, let's say we break the supply zone and the high, any 1-hour zone there, that would be our confirmation as we come off of that daily zone. And if we do break below the low here, I think that could be an indication that, you know, we will be, like I said, potentially pulling back down to 0.88 and down to the weekly zone. I don't really recommend getting in short just yet unless we are at that daily supply. But let's say, going back to the 1-hour supply, my bad. So let's say we don't pull back up to here and we get something like this. Well, then we'll have a nice 1-hour downtrend. And then day trading shorts become an option. Day trading shorts aren't really an option yet unless we can pull back up to the 1-hour supply and look for day trading confirmation in there. But if we do, since we don't have a trend on the 1-hour chart, I would definitely not recommend day trading short outside of our higher time frame here, which would be the 1-hour chart. So hopefully this is all making sense. I know it can be a little bit confusing because I do like to give both sides, like what I would be doing for longs and what I would be doing for shorts. So if you guys have any questions, do not hesitate to ask. All right, last but not least, we are on to crude oil. We're going to start off with the weekly chart here. It's not great. There's all the zones. This is used up right here. This is used up. But if you clearly see, momentum is obviously to the upside here. It's more evident on the daily chart, which we're going to look at here in a second. But I just wanted to point out this out. Our nearest profit target would be to about $87. I think we could hesitate around here, but ultimately I think we are actually going to break to the upside just based on how used up this supply zone is. So profit margin still, like I said, to $87 a barrel, maybe 86. You would start tightening up your stop loss or something like that. If you look at the daily chart, I'm pretty disappointed. I really wanted to get that pullback entry down to 74.04 down to the daily zone, and look, it's still possible. But we're not really seeing evidence, right? I like to think things are possible, but I also like to use evidence to suggest that it is going to go down there. And the evidence would be basically like we had here, downward trend line holding. And that was our first sign, but we failed to break this demand zone, so the evidence kind of changed, and now we actually have a 1 hour trend to the upside. So look, I think day trading longs on the 5-minute, 1-minute chart based on this 1 hour trend is definitely going to be fine. If we look at the 4 hour chart here, I like this pullback down to $80.05. Doesn't look like we're going to get down to there. So in the meantime, since we are pushing back up to this supply zone, again, it's a used up supply zone. So this is what I like to call a proven supply zone, which means if this supply zone gets removed, any demand zone here is going to be a pretty good zone since this was proven supply. So we either want to wait for a pullback down to $80.05, or if we can create a 4 hour demand zone by removing that supply, that would be our long entry there as well. But in the meantime, guys, day trading longs are going to be fine. This that I just pointed out is more for you swing traders, because you don't really want to be buying like right at the high like this, right? We want to see supply get removed, push up well above the high, and then get that pullback, or like I said, all the way down at $80.05. But since we have trends to the upside here, longs are fine on day trading timeframes. It's just getting a little risky since we're kind of floating at the high. But as long as this trend line is holding here, guys, it's really longs all the way. Like I said, on the weekly chart, tons of profit margin up to about $86, $87, $88 a barrel. And honestly, I think we're going to, not blast through that supply in the weekly chart, but definitely break it in my opinion. If you guys want to watch the full length forecast with all the other markets, make sure to subscribe to the channel membership to get access.